What's going on, y'all? Psych Perspectives, giofvcks here. And in this video, I'm just going to be clarifying a couple of things when I'm talking about gender and sexuality. So first things first, gender and sexuality are two different concepts, two different social constructions, two different things. So for example, when we're talking about gender, and actually I should do it, but when we're talking about gender, we're talking about, do you recognize yourself as a man, a woman? Are you masculine, feminine? People can be gender fluid. People can be gender queer. There's people who are naturally androgynous as well. There's people, and then also gender is on a spectrum, just like sexuality. You have people that are cisgendered on one side, and then you have people who are transgendered on the other side, and then in between, again. Then you have your sexuality. Sexuality, you can be gay, you can be heterosexual, you can be straight, you can be bisexual, demisexual, pansexual, asexual. Again, sexuality, similar to gender, is on a spectrum. You have heterosexual over here on one side of the spectrum, and then you have homosexual on the other side of the spectrum. And then in between, through that spectrum, you have different sexualities. Some people lean more towards being in the middle. They're very fluid, they're pansexual, they're attracted to people, and it doesn't matter what the person's gender or sexuality is. If they have that type of connection with that individual, they'll go that way. Then you have people who are asexual. They're not necessarily sexually attracted or participating in sex 24/7, but they're attracted to different people and have different types of relationships with those people. Same thing with the relationships. This is why I'm always talking about monogamy isn't the only relationship style. Being heterosexual isn't the only sexuality. Being cisgendered isn't the only gender. Again, people, these are things that, again, indigenous people across the world from different countries, different cultures already understood and knew this. A lot of the gender and sexuality that we see today, in particular when it comes to being heterosexual and cisgendered and monogamous, is directly birthed out of Christianity, out of white supremacy. It is what it is, and there's so much research and just knowledge and history on this, and I will have that information in the description box. And as always, I always recommend that you do your own individual independent research, your own investigation to find and do your own fact checking. But yeah, so I just wanted to clarify that real quick. In the next stage of this video, I want to discuss some of the comments that I received on my video where I'm discussing why I personally do my best to avoid download DL men and people like the plague, like COVID. Like, I'm just not interested. So I was looking at the comments in the comment section, and there's like a lot of good conversations and like people kind of going back and forth on perspectives. And I'm seeing a lot of people saying that, basically gay people or people a part of the LGBTQ plus or women are always trying to call men gay, and basically saying that, is it power in numbers? You guys are always trying to basically put the gay sexuality or term against a man. And I'm sitting here like, first of all, this is my, my personal experience, lived experience, and also me as a gay trans man. If a man, whether they're gay or trans, is in my inbox trying to have sex, flirting, calling me attractive, all of this, and we have a session and we hook up and sex is involved and it's a sexual intercourse or sexual activities take place, it would be considered gay sex. It would be a gay sexual experience. It's two men having sex or participating in sexual activity. So you can be however you want to be. You could, again, people's gender or sexuality is fluid. Are there heterosexual people that have had gay sexual experiences? Yes. There's a lot of people. They can still be heterosexual and have a gay sexual experience, but you're still having a gay sexual experience, whether you're heterosexual or not, whether that's how you identify or not. You're not going to invalidate my lived experiences and my identity and go off saying, because there's a lot of gay cis men who will sit up and say, oh, well, I had heterosexual sex because the person they had sex with is a trans man. That's not heterosexual sex. That's gay sex. You're not going to invalidate my identity because you're uncomfortable with the fact that you're having gay sexual experiences or gay sexual activities. It is what it is. I'm not going to be invalidated because of your internalized ish. And that's just how I look at it. Now, are you still heterosexual? Like if you're heterosexual and you mostly only have sex with, if you're a heterosexual man and you mostly only have sex with women and you had a gay experience, does that make you gay? No, you can have gay experiences. There are gay people who have heterosexual experiences. They'll have heterosexual sex. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be heterosexual. They can still identify as being homosexual or gay. There's people who are bi and pan. There's people that are bi. There's bi men who mostly mess with other men, but they still can be considered bisexual because they are still attracted to women. Doesn't mean, you feel what I'm saying, but the point is, especially in when it pertains to people of trans experience, oftentimes we will have our gender identity completely invalidated and disrespected because people are transphobic. If you're a heterosexual man and you're having sex or sexual experiences with a trans man, that is going to be a gay experience. That is a gay sexual activity. You can still be heterosexual all day. Again, your sexuality can be fluid, but you can't sit up and call the sexual experience a heterosexual experience with a gay trans man, and you're a man. It just doesn't work. That's not how it is. And when people sit up and try to say that, oh, well, we're having heterosexual sex because it's with a trans man, that's transphobic. And you're basically straight up saying you don't see me as a man. You're still viewing me as something that I'm not. And that's why I said what I said in the comments. And I do feel like a lot of these comments really, I'm just going to be honest, it's coming from, to me, from my perspective, because I lived in the closet. I did the DL stuff myself. That's why I can speak so much on it, because I lived through it, been through it, experienced it, the whole 9 yards, did it for basically 26 years. So I know what I'm talking about. Is that for me, when people say that, a side of me is seeing that, hey, you still have internalized homophobia. You're still ashamed of the fact that you have enjoyed gay experiences. Now, you can still say you're heterosexual all day. If that's how you identify, that's how you identify. But to sit up here and try to do all this twisting and turning, oh, I'm not gay, I don't do that, but in the meantime, I'm constantly hooking up with other men, and I'm a man. So you might not be gay, but you definitely enjoy gay experiences, gay sexual activities. So you could be heterosexual and enjoy that. I'm not taking that away from you, but you're not going to sit up here and invalidate other people's experiences and other people's identities just to cover up the fact that you have insecurities. I'm just being honest. When I look at, and even when I'm looking at some of the comments, it's a bunch of projecting. Like, you're not secure with your own gender identity. You're not secure with your own sexuality and what sexual experiences that you like. And then you're sitting up mad because I'm calling it a gay experience when it is a gay experience. You're having sex with men. You're having, so I'm not going to sit up here and invalidate myself for someone else. That's just that. And again, another person was like, well, that doesn't, literally try to sit up and basically say that I led somebody on and got my hopes up when the whole time I'm the one being pursued. I was being pursued by this guy for 5 years, nonstop. Before I came out the closet, after I came out the closet, made an entire video, talked to him, told him why I had to pull back, why I, been MIA for the past 2 years. This person still was pursuing, and yet the comment that I had was, well, you know, you got attached. And I'm like, no, I was the one being pursued. And this is why I don't mess with DL people. I'm not interested in being your dirty little secret. I'm not interested in any of that. Like, I'm out and proud, so I'm not interested in dealing with people that are having all of these internalized battles and insecurities about who they are and what they like. You know, I will send you love and hope you well, and, you know, put the information on counseling and therapy in the description box for you, but I'm not putting myself in another toxic, dysfunctional, abusive situation. Just not doing it. And that's why I'm not interested in DL men and people. Just not doing it. As far as I'm concerned, that's no different than another narcissistic relationship, because that's basically what it is. You know, you're dealing with someone who, granted, yes, they have every reason to feel the way they feel because we live in a very homophobic and transphobic society. However, just because you've been going through things and have been done wrong doesn't give you the right to inflict that pain and suffering onto other people. So just because you're DL and insecure and worried about everything doesn't mean you get to project that off on other people. And a lot of times, especially in the trans community, especially with trans women and trans feminine people, they're being murdered and killed by Black cis men who are ashamed of their sexuality, ashamed of who they're attracted to, ashamed of their sexual experiences and what they like. So a lot of Black trans women, brown trans women, Black and brown feminine people are literally being murdered in the streets, killed, beaten, harassed, discriminated against because of this. So this is why, in my personal experience, lived experience, and personal opinion, you need to do your best to avoid DL men and DL people, because it's just like, no. And then in this situation, the same person who left that comment was like, in another video, basically, well, that's why I don't understand non-monogamy. Like, couldn't you just, and again, this is a prime example of why I'm non-monogamous. This whole time, I'm sitting up here talking to a person that has been pursuing me for 5 years, not realizing, not knowing that this person was in a whole committed relationship with a pregnant girlfriend at home. And we hooked up 3 times. So those were 3 gay sexual experiences, 3 times with a person that was already supposedly in a monogamous relationship and had a pregnant girlfriend at home the entire time. And this is another reason why I'm like, again, you're cheating at that stage because you're the one in the monogamous relationship. I'm not. I didn't even know that this person had a girlfriend, let alone a girlfriend that was pregnant. Like, I had no clue of that. So again, you can sit up, yes, he can be heterosexual, but he clearly was enjoying gay sexual experiences with a trans man. And again, he can be heterosexual and still enjoy those experiences, but is it still wrong for him to be cheating on his pregnant girlfriend that he's in a committed monogamous relationship with? Yeah, that's wrong. And just yet another reason why I don't do monogamy, because for me, for the most part, especially when you're dealing with cis men, it's a fucking joke. You know, these people are not interested in having that one-on-one monogamous relationship for the most part. They want to have sexual experiences with multiple different people, which is completely fine if you would be upfront and honest instead of sitting up faking the funk and making it seem like you're monogamous when you're not. And, you know, now you have this girlfriend who has no idea that she's just being cheated on left and right, on top of the fact that these people do not use protection. This person did not want to use protection the vast majority of the time. I had to keep bringing it up, like, bro, condoms. I'm only doing this with condoms. And yet this person has a girlfriend who at the time was pregnant. And literally, I found out in March, gave birth to the child at the end of February of 2020. So that's another reason why I'm like, I'm good on the whole monogamy and like, I feel bad for people who think they're in committed monogamous relationships, because oftentimes it's not the case. You might be committed, you might be monogamous, but your partner isn't. And instead of people just being honest and upfront, like, hey, I'm not looking for that type of relationship style, I'm non-monogamous, I'm pansexual, or I'm polyamorous, or I'm looking for an open relationship. Like, people are not honest with themselves. So they're not going to be honest with other people. People project. So that's why I'm like, why waste my time with DL people and DL men? Now, going back to what I said also in the video is, again, if you're just having a hookup and you're taking all of the safety and health precautions, or at least the risk involved in the hookup with the DL person, and that's what you're doing, and you're okay with that, then that's what you're doing. But again, I'm going to err on the side of caution. Don't expect nothing more from it outside of sex and it being a hookup. Because once again, shout out to Legend. I saw your comment, and it's the truth. You'll see a lot of trans women. You'll see a lot of feminine men, feminine people who they want the DL, down low, masculine guy that they're chasing after. And the DL masculine guy is kind of already making it obvious that this is just a sexual relationship or a sexual experience. They're not interested in a committed relationship with you. They don't even want to be seen in public with you. They don't even want to be associated with you. Okay? You only seeing them behind closed doors or late at night. You got to go to a different city or a different state to hook up. Everything is, behind closed doors. In the meantime, you got the trans women, the feminine men, feminine people, the bottom, if you will, who is sitting up. They done got attached. They're falling in love. They want more than just a sexual hookup or relationship. And the DL person, the DL masculine person, the DL masculine man, he's not going to be able to give you that. So that's what I'm saying. If you're cool with the hookups and you know the risk involved and you're taking the health and safety precautions, you know what you're putting yourself into, is all I'm saying. Then if that's what you're cool with, cool. But err on the side of caution. Don't expect anything more from that relationship, and don't be sitting up allowing yourself to get hurt like this. Because again, it's so many, like, shout out to you again for leaving that comment, Legend, because I see that all the time. It's like nonstop, people getting their feelings hurt, and then also people being murdered and killed. People, and then like another person, Deshaun, left a really good comment, especially on these apps like Jack and Grindr. You'll have people, especially with the catfishing, they'll catfish and lure people on these fake hookups to rob them, setting them up to rob them, and in some cases murder and kill them. So it's not safe. It's just not safe to be dealing with DL men and people. It's just not. It's just so many risks involved. But again, if you are aware of the risk and you know the health complications and you're taking the safety precautions for you and you're okay with the hookup, then by all means, do what works for you, as I always like to say. But again, I'm not about to be invalidating my identity and my lived experience. You know what I mean? I sit back and I see this shit nonstop. People being murdered and killed for being trans, for being LGBTQ+, for fucking around with DL men and DL people. You'll sit up here and be in a whole love triangle and mess around and be killed by this person's spouse or by them because you didn't even know that they had a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a significant other, a spouse. Didn't even know they had a husband or a wife. You had no idea. But because they're on the DL living all these double lives and lying to themselves and to you and others, it's too much, in my opinion. It's just not worth the energy, and not to mention all of the risk involved, like everything from you being killed to catching sexually transmitted diseases and infections, to you being emotionally abused, to you being physically abused. There's so much things, financially abused. Like I said, people getting lured on these fake catfish profiles on Jack, Grindr, Tinder, whatever app, only to find out that that's not who you're meeting. You're being killed or being robbed. It's just not worth. It's just not worth it, in my opinion. But again, people gonna do what they want to do and what works best for them. That's basically how I see this. And at the same time, like I said in the other video, I understand why people are on the DL. I get why people are on the down low. Again, homophobia and transphobia kills. And that's all I got to say on that. And to put it out there again, gender and sexuality are two different social constructs, two different concepts, two different things. And gender and sexuality are on a spectrum. You feel me? There are people who are heterosexual who will have gay experiences. There are people who are homosexual who will have heterosexual experiences. They can still identify as being gay. They can still identify as being straight. And there's people who, they like a little bit of everything. They're on the spectrum. Whatever floats their boat, you know? And that's the gist of this. And yeah, I'm out.